I stare at my phone screen, reading the message again as though the words might somehow rearrange themselves into something less cruel, less final. But they don't. This year it's just Melissa's family, hope you understand. The crisp November sunlight pours through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my Boston condo, catching the crystal vase I'd splurged on last week, scattering fractured rainbows across the polished walls. Outside, sailboats drift across the harbor, their white sails gleaming like teeth against the dark water, careless and free, while inside I stand motionless, anchored by a text that feels like a blade. Everything in this space I've curated screams success: minimalist furniture in soft whites and grays, original artwork hanging like trophies, uncluttered surfaces that whisper control. Nothing betrays the hollow ache spreading through my chest. My thumb hovers above the glowing screen, caught between fury and silence. A dozen responses surge and collapse in my mind, questions sharp as glass, accusations bitter as ash. In the end, only one fragile word makes it through. Enjoy. I set the phone down carefully on the marble countertop, pressing my palms flat against the cool stone. My reflection in the polished granite looks composed, self-assured, almost indifferent. The perfect portrait of a woman unfazed. Only the faint tremble in my hands betrays the truth. Yesterday I was at Williams-Sonoma, selecting personalized stockings for nieces and nephews, choosing a cashmere throw for Grandma Margaret, a bottle of rare scotch for Uncle Robert, even a hand-carved cheeseboard for Aunt Linda and Uncle Jimmy, parents despite the fractures in our relationship. I had been planning. Anticipating. Believing in a place at the table. Grandma Margaret's voice still echoed in my memory from last week, warm and certain. You're still coming for Thanksgiving at your parents', right? I can't wait to see you, sweetheart. Wouldn't miss it, I'd promised, stirring the cranberry chutney I had perfected after 3 trial batches, finally finding the balance of tart and sweet she'd taught me. The shrill ring of the phone snaps me back. Derek's name flashes on the screen. Brianna? Have you heard? His voice carries the same disbelief thrumming through my chest. About Thanksgiving? Just got the text. It's not just you. They've cut almost everyone, 18 of us, gone in a single sweep. My grip tightens. What? Why? Derek spits the answer with venom. Because Melissa's perfect family gets the perfect table. God forbid they include the rest of us commoners. My eyes close. This isn't just about this year. It never was. It's about decades of being second choice, the afterthought. Practical Christmas gifts while Melissa's were extravagant. Parent-teacher conferences missed for me, but calendars cleared for her volleyball games. A pattern so relentless I stopped flinching at it years ago, though the sting had never left. You there? Derek's voice pulls me back. Yeah, I murmur, just processing. He explains their plan to gather at Grandma's instead, though her place is too small. I move toward the window, the late autumn light glittering across the water like shards of broken glass. From the outside, I must look unshaken, successful, untouchable. Inside, the hurt girl I've always been, curls tight, wanting to retreat, lick her wounds in private. But something shifts, subtle but seismic. The sunlight on the harbor blinds me, then clears, and when I see my reflection in the glass again, my shoulders are straighter, my chin lifted. The hurt is still there, but alongside it something stronger begins to grow. I pick up the phone, scrolling until I find the number. My voice is steady, almost unfamiliar when it leaves my throat. Chef Martin? It's Brianna Campbell. I'd like to host Thanksgiving dinner for 32 people at my New Hampshire estate. He hesitates only a moment, surprised but respectful. That's quite an undertaking on short notice, Miss Campbell. I'm aware, I reply, eyes flicking back to the message still glowing on the counter. But it's time for a new tradition. One where everyone has a place. By the time I hang up, a calm unlike anything I've known begins to settle over me. They've made their choice, cutting me out without hesitation. Now I'm making mine. And something tells me they'll regret theirs sooner than they imagine. That evening, the Boston skyline glitters against the bruised November sky as I unlock my climate-controlled storage unit. Inside lies a decade of memories I've kept sealed away, untouched like artifacts from a life half-lived. I pull the string, the bulb flickers, shadows stretching across boxes labeled in my precise hand. High school. College. Family photos. My fingers pause on the last box. Part of me wants to turn back, to close it all away and retreat to the safety of indifference. But the part of me that called Chef Martin pushes forward. The cardboard flaps give way with a whisper of dust. On top rests a cracked leather photo album. I lower myself to the cold floor, cross-legged as I once did as a child, and open the pages. Every picture tells the same story. Melissa, radiant at the center, parents framing her protectively. Me, always offset, cropped, as though the lens had never quite found room for me. When I'd protest, my mother would wave it away. You moved just as I clicked. After a while, I stopped mentioning it. There it is, Christmas 1995. Melissa unwrapping the deluxe art set she'd begged for, her face glowing with delight. A few pages later, me holding up a winter coat, smiling tightly for the camera. I remember the weight of that moment, the telescope I'd circled in catalogs for months slipping out of reach as I pretended the coat was enough. Deeper in the box lies my MIT acceptance letter, paper still creased from when I clutched it in my hand, running to my father mid-coffee. I got in. I'd cried. Full admission to MIT, computer science program. He barely glanced up before returning to his newspaper. Computer science? What kind of career is that for a girl? My mother's hand had pressed my shoulder gently. We just worry about you, honey. Melissa's teaching degree will always be practical. That day, I folded the letter back into its envelope, slipped it into my pocket, and walked alone to the park to cry. The box yields more. Pay stubs from the 3 jobs I worked through college, scraps of exhaustion I wore like second skin. My parents had refused to help with tuition, claiming poverty, yet months later refinanced the house for Melissa's wedding, lavish, extravagant, celebrated. Worth every penny, my father had said. Every father dreams of giving his daughter her perfect day. I was their daughter too. My phone buzzes, breaking the spiral. Grandma Margaret's name glows on the screen. Her voice, tight with anger, cuts through before I can even greet her. Linda told me they're keeping Thanksgiving small this year. She didn't say she was cutting half the family to do it. It's fine, I murmur, instinctive and practiced. It is not fine, she snaps, sharp as steel. This has been happening your whole life, and I should have spoken sooner. Her words press into me like hands against my chest, painful but affirming. I'm hosting instead, I hear myself say, my voice steadier than I feel. At the New Hampshire estate. Everyone's invited. Silence, then warmth softens her tone. I'll be there with bells on, sweetheart. And I'll make sure everyone knows you saved Thanksgiving. Texts flood in as soon as we hang up. Derek rallying cousins and uncles, enthusiasm sparking like wildfire. Olivia, my executive assistant, already arranging transportation for relatives who can't drive. Chef Martin sends a menu draft, traditional dishes elevated to something grander, worthy of a new beginning. I pack the memories back into the box, sealing it with careful hands. Tomorrow, I'll drive north. The day after, the winding driveway of my New Hampshire estate will greet me with bare maples and gray skies. The colonial revival mansion, white columns rising like guardians, will wait, once just an investment, now transformed into the heart of something far more important. Alan, the caretaker, will open the door, his face weathered but smiling. Good timing, Miss Campbell. Snow's coming next week. And for the first time in years, I'll feel ready not just to endure Thanksgiving, but to redefine it. I've checked the generator twice, just to be safe. Thank you, Alan, I say, my voice steady though my heart beats a little faster. We'll have about 30 guests for Thanksgiving. If he's surprised, he doesn't show it. I promise him I'll make sure everything is in order. When will you need the rooms prepared, he asks. I'll handle the guest rooms personally, I assure him. Later, I stand alone in the first guest bedroom, smoothing fine cotton sheets across a four-poster bed. For Grandma Margaret, I've chosen the softest pillows I could find, and placed a small vase of dried lavender on the bedside table, her favorite scent, gentle and calming. For Uncle Robert and Aunt Sarah, I've prepared matching quilts, hand-stitched by an artisan in Vermont. For the children, I've set out baskets of toys and books, carefully chosen for each age group, hoping their laughter will echo through halls that have known too much silence. On the dining table rests a small package, 32 personalized place cards, each hand-calligraphed. I unwrap them slowly, running my fingers over the raised ink of my own name. For a moment, I wonder where I would have been seated at my parents' table, probably the far end, if I had been seated at all. Standing in the grand dining room, with its 15-foot ceiling and wall of windows overlooking the pond, I close my eyes and imagine voices filling the space, laughter, conversation, the clatter of silverware against china. Then, an unwelcome thought surfaces. Am I doing this out of love or out of revenge? Both, I admit silently, and the realization should trouble me more than it does. I place my own card at the head of the table and step back, surveying the room. For just a moment, I see it through my mother's eyes, the tasteful luxury, the understated wealth, the careful planning. Let them see what their second-best daughter has built. Let them wonder what else they missed while they were busy looking the other way. My phone lights up for the 5th time in an hour, Mother's latest text glowing like an accusation. You're embarrassing the family with this spectacle. People are talking. The irony nearly makes me laugh. After excluding me from their table without a second thought, now they worry about appearances. Alan appears quietly in the doorway, his weathered face lined with concern beneath his usual stoicism. Miss Campbell, he says, the weather service is reporting a possible storm system moving in this afternoon. How severe? I ask, continuing to arrange the place settings. Severe enough to worry about. I've checked the generator twice, but with 30-some people here, he leaves the rest unsaid. I nod, already making a mental note to place extra blankets in every room. Thank you, Alan. Let's hope it passes us by. Against my better judgment, I open my social media app. Melissa's latest post leaps to the top of my feed, so blessed to celebrate with true family this year. The ones who matter most. Real Thanksgiving. Family first. Heart emojis spill across the comments from her in-laws and friends. None mention the 18 family members suddenly deemed unworthy. My voicemail icon blinks, Father's voice filling my ear with that familiar condescending tone. Brianna, your mother, and I think you're being dramatic. If you wanted to host your own dinner, you could have discussed it with us instead of I delete the message before he can finish. The same father who forgot to attend my college graduation doesn't get to lecture me about communication. Minutes later, Derek calls, voice tight with urgency. You should know they're calling everyone, trying to convince people not to come. They're saying you're just showing off. Are people canceling? I ask, dread curling in my stomach. The opposite, he says. Everyone's more determined than ever. Grandma Margaret told Aunt Linda to pound sand. The mental image of my 82-year-old grandmother saying those words brings my first genuine smile in days. I drift into my home office, fingertips grazing the polished mahogany desk. 5 years ago, this space was nothing more than a cramped corner in my studio apartment, barely large enough for a laptop and a coffee mug. I worked 16-hour days building CyberCore's security protocol, while venture capitalists and even my own father dismissed me as a failure in the making. The cybersecurity market is saturated, he told me one Christmas dinner. You should get a real job before you end up bankrupt. Then he'd turn to Melissa, praising her part-time department store promotion as though it were a crown. I remember the night it all changed. 3 years into building the company, surviving on ramen and sheer willpower, my phone rang at 2 a.m. A client's system had detected an intrusion attempt that would have cost millions. My protocol caught what every other system had missed. Within a week, we had 4 new contracts. Within a year, acquisition offers. The day I signed the papers selling Cybercore for $420 million, I called my parents. Mother answered, talked about Melissa's twins for 15 minutes, then said she had to go before I could share my news. Now I stand in a home worth more than everything they own combined, preparing to host the family they decided wasn't worth their time. Snowflakes drift past the windows as the first guests arrive. Cousin Rachel and her husband pull up in their modest sedan, 3 children tumbling out, their laughter bright against the winter air. Is this a castle? Little Emma asks, her 7-year-old eyes wide. I kneel to her level despite my designer dress. Just a very big house, I tell her with a smile. One car after another winds up the driveway as snow thickens into a storm. Alan and his team help elderly relatives climb the steps, while Chef Martin directs his assistants in a quiet symphony of preparation. The house fills with voices, warmth, the scents of rosemary and sage. I'm arranging flowers in the entryway when a hush falls across the room. At the door stands Grandma Margaret, silver hair sprinkled with snowflakes, cheeks flushed with cold and something fiercer. Your mother thinks I'm in bed with a headache, she declares, handing her coat to Alan. I'd rather be here, with people who know what family truly means. She cups my face in her soft, papery hands. They've been doing this to you since you were little. I should have spoken up sooner. The acknowledgement nearly undoes me. All these years, I thought no one had noticed. Within an hour, the house bursts with life. Children race through hallways that have never known such joyful noise. Cousins appear with dishes and decorations. Derek sets up a rest system for the elders, and in the kitchen, Chef Martin orchestrates a feast that feels both rooted in tradition and touched with brilliance. The snow thickens into a blizzard. Windows rattle with the wind as we gather at the long dining table, 32 chairs filled. No one excluded, no one forgotten. Uncle Robert rises for a toast when suddenly the lights flicker, falter, and plunge the room into darkness. Generator will kick in, Alan calls, but seconds stretch into a minute, then more. Instead of panic, something unexpected happens. Someone begins humming Amazing Grace. Another voice joins, then another. Soon, flashlights and candles illuminate the table. Grandma Margaret's trembling soprano carries above the others, pure and defiant. By candlelight, Derek and his sons distribute more candles from the emergency stash. In their glow, I see something I've chased my entire life, genuine connection. Not the carefully curated image my parents worshipped, but something messy, real, and beautiful. When the generator finally sputters back to life 20 minutes later, part of me wishes it hadn't. For in that fragile darkness, we had found what their bright, flawless table never held. Alan appears beside me, speaking quietly. Storms knocked out power across the county. Reports say your parents' neighborhood will be without electricity for at least 8 hours. Are they okay? I ask automatically, despite everything. Their generator's running, from what I hear. But it's just the 7 of them in that big house, while we've got 32 here, warm and fed. As I look around at these faces blood and chosen alike, I realize something profound. My parents thought excluding me was taking something away. Instead, they gave me the push I needed to create something better than anything they could offer. The lights shine down on us, but the warmth comes not from bulbs or generators, it comes from us. The next morning, sunlight floods through the estate's eastern windows, casting golden light across the breakfast room where relatives linger over pastries and coffee. The blizzard has passed, leaving behind a pristine white landscape sparkling like glass. My phone buzzes with a flurry of notifications. Someone's popular today, Grandma Margaret teases, eyes twinkling as she sips her coffee. Curious, I check my phone and find dozens of alerts. At the top is a post from my nephew Tyler. Look what an amazing Thanksgiving we had at Brianna Campbell's estate. He's shared photos, the grand table aglow with candlelight, cousins laughing by the fireplace when the power went out, the estate gleaming like a jewel in the snowy night. My breath catches, tears pressing at the corners of my eyes. Did you see what Tyler posted? Cousin Rachel asks as she comes downstairs, holding out her phone. It's going viral in our hometown circles, spreading faster than I can keep up. I scroll through post after post, each one a fragment of last night's gathering. Cousin Derek shared a video of everyone singing by the fireplace, voices weaving together in harmony as snow drifted gently beyond the window panes. Aunt Elaine uploaded a dazzling shot of the dessert table, with Chef Martin's apple cranberry tart gleaming at the center like a jewel. In almost every photo, joy radiates so vividly that it's impossible not to feel it through the screen. Yet amid the laughter and celebration, I notice something else, something quieter. You're barely in any of these, Rachel murmurs, leaning over my shoulder. I nod. I didn't need to be. The gathering speaks for itself. My phone rings, its sharp sound breaking through the warm blur of images. Rachel glances at the screen, her eyebrows lifting before she steps away with discretion. Melissa's husband, she whispers. I answer. Hello, Robert. His voice is strained, almost brittle. Brianna, I just wanted to say, yesterday looked nice. It was, I reply simply. He clears his throat, fumbling. I, accidentally tagged your parents in a comment on Tyler's post. Melissa's upset. The truth dawns immediately. I see. His hesitation stretches. Your mom called this morning. 5 times. People are asking questions. After we hang up, I return to the feed. The problem becomes immediately clear. Robert's seemingly innocent comment looked amazing, wish we could have been there, had tagged my parents, revealing to their friends the existence of another Thanksgiving they hadn't even known about. Within hours, the post spread beyond family, reaching neighbors and church members. Comments multiply, carrying shock and thinly veiled judgment. What makes it unbearable for them is the visual comparison no one can ignore. Someone has even created a split-screen image, our feast glowing with 32 people against their half-empty table of 7, Melissa's family included. The contrast is brutal, undeniable. Which gathering looks more like family? Your mother called me, Grandma Margaret says gently, joining me by the window. She's upset. What did you tell her? I ask. Her smile carries the weight of decades of silence now lifting. I told her it was the first time the family felt whole in years. My phone won't stop buzzing. Uncle Robert has posted about the best Thanksgiving in memory. Cousins tag each other with gratitude. Chef Martin shares professional photos, praising me as hostess, tagging my company. Then, a question appears in the comments, innocent yet devastating. Why weren't Brianna's parents there? Seems strange they'd miss such an amazing gathering. The words hang in the digital air, unanswerable. By noon, my parents start calling. I let it go to voicemail 3 times before answering. My mother's voice cracks with fury, not sorrow. How could you do this to us? Do what exactly? I ask evenly, watching snowflakes fall outside. Throw an extravagant party just to make us look bad? You're showing off your money. Once, the accusation would have pierced me. Now, it slips past. I only said another table because you told me I wasn't invited to yours. Silence, then my father's voice rumbling in the background. I suggest speakerphone. Fumbling, then his words. Brianna, this has gotten out of hand. Maybe we should discuss this in person. We can discuss whatever you'd like, I say calmly. But first, let's clarify something. 2 months ago, at Melissa's birthday dinner, I mentioned selling my company. No one listened. No one even asked a single question. Silence stretches. I sold Cybercore for $420 million, Dad. But when I said it, none of you cared. His sharp intake of breath echoes through the line. I didn't realize I know, I say softly. You never have. When the call ends, Derek appears with coffee. Everything okay? I look around at the family still gathered in my home, those who stayed to help clean, who showed respect and genuine interest. Actually, I answer, feeling lighter than I expected. I think it finally is. For the first time in my life, I don't need my parents' table. I've built something better. The next morning, the doorbell chimes unexpectedly. My parents stand outside, Mother clutching a worn leather photo album like a shield. I hesitate, the old Brianna ready to hide. But that Brianna is gone. I open the door. This is a surprise. We were in the neighborhood, my father says, his voice too bright. Thought we'd stop by. Mother lifts the album. Found some old photos you might like to see. The timing 3 days after discovering my wealth makes their intent obvious. Still, I let them in. Inside, their eyes roam my home, lingering on the harbor view, the marble counters, the original Rothko. Quite a place, my father says. I gesture toward the living room. Would you like to sit? They perch on the white sofa, small against the grandeur. Mother opens the album. Remember this birthday? You were turning 8. The photo shows Melissa in the center, blowing candles, while I hover at the edge, half-cropped. I remember, I reply quietly. That was the year you forgot my birthday. Grandma made cupcakes instead. Mother's smile falters. That's not it is, I interrupt, steady. I return with a box labeled evidence. One by one, I lay items down: me MIT acceptance letter they never celebrated, my bank statements from college when they refused loans, their house refinance for Melissa's wedding. Their eyes flicker in silent calculation, the same dance of excuses I've seen all my life. My father leans forward. We should start fresh. The past is the past. My mother reaches for my hand. I don't take it. Instead, he lowers his voice. If you ever need financial advice, and there it is, the real motive. I have advisors, I say firmly. What I need is respect. I open a small journal. August 12, 1998, Mom said my science fair project was showing off. November 30, 2001, Dad laughed when I said I wanted to learn programming. Silence weighs heavy, decades of cruelty condensed into a few words. My phone rings. Melissa's name. Without warning, I answer on speaker. Hi, Melissa. I'm with Mom and Dad. A pause, then her voice, fragile but strong. Brianna, I've always been jealous. You're smarter, braver. I was the perfect daughter only to hide my fear of losing. They pitted us against each other our whole lives. The doorbell rings again. I know who it is. Grandma Margaret steps in, silver hair gleaming, eyes sharp with purpose. She sees the evidence box and nods. Good. You're finally having this conversation. When my parents protest, she silences them. Every time Brianna achieved, you diminished her. Every time she needed support, you turned away. My father insists, we gave both daughters everything. 3 voices cut through at once: mine, Grandma's, Melissa's. And in that moment, my mother breaks. Tears, real ones this time, fall as she whispers, I didn't realize. I didn't see. Not an apology, but a crack in the wall. Snow drifts outside my New Hampshire estate as Christmas arrives. A month has passed, with tentative calls and cautious steps. When my parents arrive with Melissa's family, the air is heavy with hesitation. But slowly, laughter of children fills the house, loosening the silence. At dinner, my father raises a toast to learning from our mistakes. Later, my mother whispers while helping me in the kitchen, "I never understood what you built." Her hand brushes my shoulder at the table, fragile, tentative. Melissa finds me by the Christmas tree, whispering thanks. Derek texts, "Proud of you for giving them a second chance." Even Chef Martin, Alan, and the staff join in the warmth. Finally, my mother rises. To new beginnings, and to our extraordinary daughter. As the night deepens, I watch snow fall softly beyond the windows, my home glowing with warmth and laughter. For the first time, I know with certainty family isn't blood, it's those who truly value you. Being excluded from their table allowed me to create my own, a table where everyone belongs. And next Thanksgiving, it will be even larger. Because everyone deserves a place.